Welcome to Monk's Temple. Come in. Find a space to settle. Perhaps you're seated, or lying down. Let the weight of the day begin to soften at the edges, just a little. Let your eyes gently close, or simply let your gaze soften, seeing nothing in particular. We're not here to add more noise. We're here to listen to a whisper about the nature of the experience you are having right now. This life. There's a word, a teaching, so often heard, so often misunderstood. It's said that the Buddha taught that life is suffering. And if that's all we hear, it sounds heavy. Final. A closed door. Why would anyone follow a path that starts with such a bleak announcement? It feels like standing before a vast, beautiful ocean and being told only about the salt that will sting your eyes. Tonight, we are not going to talk about that translation. We are going to step around it. We are going to walk together through a different gate into the same garden. We are going to explore a feeling, a hum, a background tone that underpins every song your life plays. The Buddha called it Dukkha. And to understand Dukkha is not to condemn life, but to understand its weather, so you can finally learn how to build a shelter within yourself that no storm can shake. So, let's begin this long, gentle walk. Breathe in and out. And I'll tell you a story. A story about a vase on my teacher's windowsill. Many years ago, when my own understanding was young and brittle, I lived for a time in a small temple nestled in the hills. My teacher, an old monk with eyes that held a profound quiet, had a simple room. On his sole windowsill, which caught the morning sun, sat a ceramic vase. It was unremarkable, a pale, creamy glaze with a single, faint hairline crack running from lip to base. It was not precious by any worldly measure. But in it, he would place a single wildflower. A dandelion one day, a sprig of pine the next, sometimes just a graceful blade of grass. One afternoon, after a particularly frustrating meditation session where my mind had been a riot of wants and regrets, I was cleaning his room. My sleeve caught the edge of the windowsill, and the vase wobbled. I lunged, but it was too late. It tipped, fell to the wooden floor, and shattered into a dozen pieces. A cold dread poured through me. It was his vase. The simple, constant thing. I gathered the shards with trembling hands, my mind already constructing the apology, bracing for a gentle but disappointed look. When I found him in the garden, shards cupped in my palms, I spilled out my regret. "I'm so sorry, teacher. I've broken your vase. The one from the windowsill." He stopped tending a chilly plant and looked at my hands, then at my face. He smiled. Not a broad smile, but a small, knowing one that reached his eyes. "Ah," he said softly. "Was it not already broken?" I was confused. "No. I just broke it. Now it is." He pointed to the largest shard in my hand. The crack. It was always there. From the day it came from the kiln. You saw it every day. He took the shards from me, not with sadness, but with curiosity, as if examining a maple seed. "You are mourning the idea of the unbroken vase. That vase never existed. You loved the flower it held. The sunlight that passed through it. The way it looked whole from where you sat across the room. But its nature, its true nature, was always breakable. It was always shatterable. The crack was just a hint. Your sorrow isn't for the clay. It's for the permanent, uncracked home you believed you had for those flowers. He placed the pieces on a stone bench. This, he said, is your first true lesson in dukkha. Not because you are in pain over the vase, but because you are in pain over the loss of an illusion. The illusion of its permanence. You formed an attachment to its vaseness, its stillness, its constancy. And when reality, the true, fragile, impermanent nature of fired clay, asserted itself, you felt a friction. That friction, that rub between how you wish things to be and how they actually are, that is the whisper of dukkha. He bent down, picked a small white clover flower, and laid it gently atop the pile of ceramic pieces. The flower never needed the vase. The beauty never needed the unbroken pot. Your piece, he said, looking directly at me, does not need an unchanging world. That was the day I began to understand. Dukkha is not the breaking. It is the heartbreaking expectation that nothing should ever break. If this gentle way of looking at life resonates with you, if you wish to explore this shelter further, consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. It helps this quiet corner of the internet exist, and allows us to take these long, contemplative walks together. So, what is this dukkha? Let's not call it suffering just yet. Let's feel it. It is the subtle, pervasive flavor of all conditioned experience. Imagine you are very thirsty, parched, and someone hands you a glass of cool water with a single, tiny grain of sand in it. You drink deeply, the water is glorious, it relieves your thirst, but your tongue finds that grain of sand. That tiny, grating presence. It doesn't ruin the water. It doesn't mean the water wasn't needed or wonderful. But the experience is flawed. It is deficient of being perfectly, completely satisfying. Life is full of glorious water. The love we feel, the beauty we see, the joys that lift us. Buddhism never denies this. The Buddha gave teachings on worldly happiness for householders. He spoke of the joy of family, of wealth rightly gained, of health. But he pointed to that grain of sand. Not to spoil the drink, but to make us aware of the nature of the glass and the water itself. Even the purest water, in this world, is in a glass that is transient, subject to being knocked over, to evaporating, to eventually, inevitably, emptying. All our experiences, the joyous, the painful, the neutral, come in such a glass. They are subhava dhamma, conditioned things. And what is conditioned is, by its very nature, impermanent. Anicca. It arises, it stays a while, it passes away. This is not a judgment. It is a fact, as fundamental as gravity. The pleasant feeling during a hug arises, lingers, and fades. The sharp pain of a stubbed toe arises, peaks, and subsides. The boring feeling during a long meeting arises, drones on, and ends. The heart of dukkha is revealed right here. We keep drinking from these temporary glasses, but we crave them to be bottomless wells. We want the joy to stay, crystallized. We want the pain to have never happened. We want the boring to become interesting. We thirst for experience to match our blueprint. And when it doesn't, which it cannot, because all experiences flow, we feel that friction. That subtle or gross unsatisfactoriness. That thirst, that craving, that pulling and pushing at reality, that is Tanha. It's the mental act of reaching for a permanent drink from an impermanent stream. Dukkha is the inevitable result of that impossible endeavor. It's not that the stream is evil. It's that our expectation of it is out of alignment with its truth. Let me offer you a metaphor, one I've carried for years. I call it the cloud-shaped heart. Imagine your mind, your heart, your essential feeling self, is like a vast, clear, open sky. Its fundamental nature is spacious, aware, and peaceful. Now, into this sky, weather forms. These are your experiences. A beautiful, sun-gilded cloud of joy forms. A dark, rumbling thunderhead of grief drifts in. A thin, gray blanket of boredom covers everything. Fast, playful wisps of excitement dart past. We are taught, by habit, to become the weather. The joy cloud appears, and we say, I am happy. We try to nail the cloud to the sky. We build a mental house on it, move in, and declare, this is me now, and this will last. But clouds, by their nature, change and drift. The joy cloud dissipates. And because we believed we were the cloud, we feel we are disappearing with it. We panic. My happiness is gone. I am losing myself. The storm cloud of anger arrives. We contract, we become the thunder and lightning. I am angry. We think this storm will define the sky forever. We rage against its own nature, which is to eventually rain itself out and move on. Dukkha is the suffering of a sky that mistakenly believes it is solid, permanent weather. It's the friction of a boundless space trying to solidify itself into a passing form. The Buddha's teaching is not that the sky should have no clouds. That would be a dead, desert sky. The teaching is a gentle remembering, you are not the cloud. You are the sky that holds the cloud. The cloud's nature is to form and vanish. The sky's nature is to remain, open and unaffected, through all formations. The unsatisfactoriness is felt when the sky forgets itself and clings to a particular cloud formation, demanding it stay, grieving when it must leave, and fearing the next formation. Liberation is simply the sky remembering it is the sky. Years before my monastic life, I was a different person, racing through the world. I was in a busy European train station, about to embark on a long-awaited trip to see a dear friend. I had the ticket, the backpack, the anticipation humming in my veins. I stood at the electronic board, watching for my platform number to flash up. The station was a river of humanity, laughing reunions, tearful goodbyes, the clatter of suitcases, the drone of announcements. I watched the board. My train's departure time approached. No platform. My chest tightened slightly. The time arrived. Then passed. A delay notice appeared next to my train code, 30 minutes. Annoyance, that first ripple of dukkha, surfaced. I paced. I checked my non-existent watch repeatedly. The 30 minutes passed. The delay updated, 60 minutes. Now, anxiety, a hotter, sharper flavor of that same unsatisfactoriness, bloomed. My mind started weaving stories, I'll miss my connection. I won't get there tonight. My friend will be worried. This whole trip is ruined. I was no longer in a train station, I was in a mental prison of what-ifs, built entirely from the raw material of a changed schedule. An hour later, cancelled. The word hit me like a physical blow. Anger, frustration, a profound sense of unfairness, a storm cloud now filled my personal sky. I stood there, fuming, feeling victimized by the universe, by the rail company, by fate. My beautiful, solid plan had shattered like that vase. In my anger, I stomped to the service counter, joining a long, miserable queue of people with the same storm in their eyes. As I stood there, simmering, my gaze fell on an old man sitting on a bench just beside the line. He was perhaps 80, neatly dressed, with a small satchel. He was simply watching. Watching the angry travelers, the harried staff, the chaotic dance of the station. And on his face was not a smile, but a look of profound, gentle acceptance. Not resignation, but a deep, calm acknowledgement of what is. He caught my eye. And he gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod, as if to say, yes. This, too, is part of the journey. In that moment, my story cracked. My mental narrative of ruin paused. I saw my own anger from the outside. I saw the man's peace. And I realized, the suffering wasn't in the cancelled train. The suffering was in the 90 minutes of mental war I had waged against the cancelled train. The dukkha was the intense friction between my train must leave at 3:15 and the reality that the train is cancelled. My tanha, my craving for the reality of Plan A, had constructed an entire hell in the middle of the bustling station. I took a breath that felt like my first real breath in hours. I left the queue. I went to a cafe, bought a tea, and rebooked for the next morning. The trip happened. It was different, but it was fine. The cancelled train was a fact. The suffering was my optional, furious commentary on that fact. That old man, my first unknowing teacher in Dukkha, taught me that peace isn't the absence of cancelled trains. It's the absence of war with them. Buddhist wisdom, in its profound precision, doesn't just leave us with one flavor of this unsatisfactoriness. It illuminates three distinct layers, like examining the grain of sand from different angles. Understanding these helps us see it isn't just pain, but a spectrum. 1. Dukkha dukkha, the suffering of suffering. This is the obvious one. The vase breaks and we cut our hand on a shard. The physical pain. The grief when someone passes. The anxiety that grips the chest. The bitterness of betrayal. This is dukkha in its gross, universally acknowledged form. It's the storm cloud so dark it blots out the sky. We all recognize this. No philosophy is needed to point it out. Life delivers these moments, and they hurt. Buddhism doesn't spiritualize this away. It says, yes. This is painful. This is the first, most immediate layer of the unsatisfactory nature of conditioned existence. It's the direct experience of unpleasant feeling. 2. Viparinama dukkha, the suffering of change. This is the more subtle, and perhaps more pervasive, layer. This is the suffering inherent in pleasure itself, because all pleasure is impermanent. This is the grain of sand in the glorious water. You are on a perfect vacation. The sun is warm, the sea is blue, you are with loved ones, and in a quiet moment, a thought arises, this will end. In 3 days, I go back to work, to traffic, to routine. A tinge of sorrow colors the joy. That is Viparinama dukkha. It's the suffering of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's the shadow that trails behind every moment of happiness, the silent knowledge of its own inevitable passing. We clutch at happy moments, and in the very clutching, we feel them slipping away. We try to take mental pictures, to capture the moment, which is ultimately an attempt to fight this law of change. The Buddha wasn't being morbid by pointing this out, he was being radically honest. He was showing us that our very strategy for happiness, finding a pleasant experience and hoping it lasts, is doomed to produce this secondary layer of unease, because change is non-negotiable. 3. Sankhara Dukkha. The suffering of conditioned existence. This is the deepest, most fundamental layer. It is the inherent unsatisfactoriness of being a compounded, conditioned thing. Sankharas are formations, everything that is put together, from a thought to a mountain to a personality. Anything that depends on conditions to exist is, by its nature, unstable, insubstantial, and empty of a permanent, independent self. This is the unsatisfactoriness of the glass itself, regardless of what's in it. It's the subtle stress of having to hold it, of knowing it can break, of it being dependent on the potter, the clay, the kiln. On a personal level, it's the background hum of being a self that is constantly in need of maintenance, needing food, water, approval, security, meaning. It's the subtle unease of being a process, not a statue. Even when we are not in gross pain, dukkha dukkha, and even when our pleasant state hasn't yet started to visibly decay, viparinama dukkha. There is this underlying tension of being a fragile, contingent being in a fragile, contingent world. It's the muffled anxiety of impermanence whispered at the very core of our existence. Most of our lives are spent reacting to the first type, chasing an escape from it through the second type, which contains the seed of its own end, and completely unaware of the third, which is the ground they both grow from. The path of awakening involves bringing calm, clear awareness to all three. I knew a man once, a passionate gardener named Leo. His backyard was a paradise of his own making, explosions of roses, orderly rows of vegetables, fragrant herbs, fruit trees he'd nurtured from saplings. He lived for summer. For him, the pinnacle of existence was a ripe tomato, warm from the sun, eaten right there among the bees and blooms. He would say, "This is living. This is perfection." But as August waned, a cloud would descend on Leo. You could see it in the set of his shoulders. When the first leaf turned yellow, it was a personal affront. The fall was his enemy. The dying back, the withering, the inevitable descent into winter's barren sleep filled him with a deep, resentful sorrow. His happiness, so tied to the peak of summer's expression, meant his suffering was guaranteed for half the year. He would rage against the falling leaves as if they were betraying him. He'd try to cover plants, to prolong the season, fighting a frantic, losing battle against the tilt of the earth. His autumns and winters were a long, gray lament for the lost summer. One October, after a particularly bitter tirade about an early frost, his young granddaughter, maybe 6 years old, was visiting. She was kicking through the piles of crimson and gold leaves he had grumpily raked. She gathered a big, perfect, sycamore leaf, golden as a coin, and ran to him. "Grandpa! Look! It's so beautiful." She presented it like a treasure. He looked at her joyous face, then at the leaf, a symbol of everything he despised. But in that moment, something broke through. He saw the season not through the lens of loss of summer, but through her eyes, a season of its own unique, brilliant beauty. The crisp air, the fiery colors, the smell of wood smoke, the quieting of the world. He later told me it was like a key turned. "I was a fool," he said. "I was loving only one note in a whole symphony and calling the rest of the music wrong. I was suffering because I was demanding the orchestra play July forever. But fall isn't the death of summer. It's just fall. And it has its own song." His Tanha, his craving for perpetual summer, was the source of his dukkha. When that craving softened, when he allowed himself to experience autumn as autumn, not summer, the suffering lifted. He began to notice the stark beauty of bare branches against a winter sky, the quiet promise of the sleeping bulbs. He didn't have to like winter, but he no longer had to wage war against it. His peace was no longer conditional on the season. He had made friends with impermanence. His garden was still a place of joy. But now, the joy was in participation with the entire cycle, not in the futile clinging to one single, fleeting phase. He learned to hold the tomato with gratitude, not with a grip of fear for its passing. Let's visualize the mechanism of Tanha, the craving that fuels Dukkha. I call it the tunnel of wanting. Imagine you are in a beautiful, sunlit meadow. It has flowers, grass, streams, shade trees. It is life, in all its rich, textured, present-moment reality. But you feel a slight itch, a sense that something is missing. A thought arises, if only I had that apple from the tree on the far side. So, you start walking toward the apple tree. But as you do, your focus narrows. You are no longer noticing the wildflowers by your feet, the birdsong, the feel of the breeze. Your entire world shrinks to a tunnel vision view of that apple. The meadow around the edges of your vision blurs and darkens. You are now in the tunnel of wanting. You reach the tree, pick the apple. For a moment, there's a flash of satisfaction. I have it. But almost instantly, a new thought arises. This apple is good, but it's a bit tart. A sweeter one would be better. Or, now I'm thirsty. I need water. The moment you attain the object of your craving, the tunnel doesn't dissolve back into the meadow. It simply re-aims at a new target. The end of one want is just the birth of the next. We spend our lives running from tunnel to tunnel. Wanting the job, then the promotion, then the bigger house, then the recognition, then the perfect relationship, then the next vacation. Each tunnel promises that the meadow, complete satisfaction, lasting peace, lies just at its end. But it never does. The meadow was where you started. The meadow is the present moment, the direct experience of life before it gets filtered through the I need, or I want, or I must have. Dukkha is the experience of living perpetually in the tunnel, the constriction, the anxiety of not having, the brief flash at the end, and the immediate search for the next tunnel. The practice of mindfulness, of vipassana, is the courageous act of stopping, right in the middle of the tunnel, and turning to look at its walls. To see that they are made of thoughts, of stories. And then, to take a step sideways, out of the tunnel, and back into the ever-present, ever-available meadow of now. The itch might still be there, but you are no longer letting it dictate your entire reality. You can feel the itch and see the wildflower. That is the beginning of freedom. A modern story, from my time living in a city. There was a coffee shop I frequented, famous for its perfect latte. Baristas were artists, the milk like velvet, the espresso a symphony in a cup. I, and many others, became connoisseurs of this perfection. We'd anticipate that first sip. It became a ritual, a tiny cornerstone of daily joy. One day, I went in. My favorite barista, the one who made the best Rosetta patterns, was gone. A new person was there, young, nervous. I ordered my usual. The cup arrived. The milk was a bit over-frothed, the espresso a touch bitter. The latte was fine. Acceptable. But it was not the perfect latte. And a storm erupted in my mind. Disappointment. Irritation. A judgmental narrative, they've let their standards slip. This place is going downhill. My morning is ruined. I sat there, sipping the perfectly adequate coffee, steeped in my own dissatisfaction. I was in a tunnel of wanting for yesterday's latte, and today's reality was failing to match the memory. Then, I caught myself. I saw the machinery of Dukkha in real time. The craving, Tanha, for a specific, past sensory experience. The aversion, Dosa, to the present, different experience. The ignorance, Moha, that believed my peace depended on the microfoam of milk. I put the cup down. I closed my eyes for a moment, and just felt. I felt the warmth of the cup in my hands. I heard the ambient chatter of the shop, the hiss of the steamer. I smelled the rich, complex aroma of coffee beans. I opened my eyes and saw the sunlight dappling through the window. The experience of being in the coffee shop, alive, sensing, was rich and full. My suffering was confined to a single, narrow channel of judgment about the liquid in the cup. By shifting my awareness from the object of craving to the field of experience itself, the tunnel dissolved. I was back in the meadow. I took another sip. Was it the best latte I'd ever had? No. Was it hot, caffeinated liquid that I could enjoy without a mental war? Yes. The dukkha vanished not because the coffee changed, but because my attachment to a particular version of it did. It was a small, silly, profound lesson. We don't suffer because of life's imperfect lattes. We suffer because we demand that life serve us the ghost of a perfect one from the past, every single time. To understand dukkha at its root, Buddhism maps out the precise chain of causation that leads from a simple sensation to full-blown suffering. It's called paticca samuppada, dependent origination. It's not mystical, it's a psychological flowchart. Let's trace a common link. The link of Vedana, feeling tone. Everything begins with contact. The eye contacts a sight. The ear contacts a sound. The body contacts a sensation. The mind contacts a thought. From that contact arises Vedana, the immediate, primal, pre-verbal feeling tone of the experience. It's not an emotion yet. It's a basic categorization, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This is automatic. Taste honey, pleasant feeling tone. Stub toe, unpleasant feeling tone. See a gray wall, neutral feeling tone. This is not where we go wrong. Vedana is natural, like a temperature reading. The suffering begins in the next link, craving, Tanha. When a pleasant feeling tone arises, craving arises in the form of desire. I want more of this. I want this to stay. When an unpleasant feeling tone arises, craving arises in the form of aversion. I want this to go away. I reject this. When a neutral feeling tone arises, craving arises as ignorance or boredom. I want something more interesting. This is nothing. We take the innocent, fleeting feeling tone and we personalize it. We claim it. This pleasant feeling is my pleasure, and I must have it continue. This pain is happening to me, and it is unacceptable. From that claiming, from that craving, a whole cascade unfolds, clinging, becoming, birth, of a whole self identified with the experience, aging, death, the entire drama of dukkha. The Buddha's radical insight was that the chain can be broken at the link of craving. We cannot stop the initial feeling tone, Vedana. The world will contact our senses. But we can, with practice, learn to pause after the feeling tone. To let the pleasant be pleasant without grabbing at it. To let the unpleasant be unpleasant without pushing it away. To let the neutral be neutral without trying to fill it with noise. This is equanimity, upekkha. It is not numbness. It is the spacious sky allowing the weather of feeling to pass through without building a house on it. When we interrupt the automatic leap from pleasant feeling to must-have, we are starving the engine of dukkha. We are experiencing life without adding the layer of compulsive wanting or rejecting. We are drinking the water, aware of the grain of sand, but not making our entire happiness contingent on its absence. The most direct experience I ever had of this chain was on a long, silent meditation retreat. For days, you sit with your own mind, with the simple, raw data of sensation. No talking, no reading, no eye contact. Just you and the ever-changing field of experience. One afternoon, in a long sitting session, an itch arose on the side of my nose. A small, trivial, unpleasant Vedana, feeling tone. In normal life, my hand would have shot up and scratched it before I even consciously registered it. Action would have been fused with sensation. But here, in the silence and the discipline of just observing, I had to watch. The instruction was, note the sensation. Itching, itching. Do not move. The itch felt monumental. It burned. It demanded attention. The craving for aversion, I want this to stop, surged like a wave. My mind screamed narratives, this is torture. Just scratch it. No one will know. This is stupid. The dukkha was intense, all from a tiny itch. I kept noting, with as much neutrality as I could muster, itching, craving, aversion, wanting to move. I observed the whole storm. And then, a miraculous thing happened. The itch changed. It wasn't a solid, monolithic itch. It was a dancing constellation of tiny sensations, a prickling here, a heat there, a pulsing throb. It was composite, impermanent. And as I watched it with bare attention, without buying the story, I am suffering from an itch, the identification loosened. The craving wave passed. The aversion subsided. The sensation was still there, but it was no longer my enemy. It was just a sensation. Fascinating in its own way. And after a few more minutes, it simply dissolved on its own. It didn't end because I scratched it. It ended because it had completed its natural life cycle of arising and passing. In that moment, I saw the entire universe of dukkha in a microcosm. An unpleasant sensation arose. The mind added craving/aversion. The mind created a sufferer. Suffering was born. When I ceased adding the craving, the sufferer had nothing to cling to, and the suffering ceased. Even though the mildly unpleasant sensation was still present. This is the profound, practical heart of the Buddha's teaching. We are not trying to create a life free of itches. We are learning not to scratch them mentally, which is what creates the real, prolonged inflammation. Imagine your life as a wide, powerful river. It flows from the mountains of birth to the ocean of death. The river's nature is to flow, to change. It has calm stretches, pleasant feelings, rapids, painful feelings, and deep, still pools, neutral feelings. This is samsara, the cyclical flow of conditioned existence, inherently marked by dukkha. Most of us are in a small boat on this river, but we are asleep in the bottom of the boat. We drift. When we hit calm water, we dream pleasant dreams and think, this is forever. When we hit rapids, we have nightmares of drowning and cry out in fear. We are completely at the mercy of the river's currents, believing we are the boat, tossed by the water. This is life lived in ignorance, avijja. The suffering is the terror and disorientation of the unawakened passenger. Awakening is not about getting out of the river. That's impossible while we live. Awakening is about waking up in the boat. You sit up. You look around. You see you are in a boat. You see you have oars, your mind, your intention. You see the nature of the river, it flows, it changes, it is not personal. Now, you are no longer a passive victim. You are the boatman. You can't stop the river from flowing, but you can learn to steer. You can row towards the calmer edges when possible. You can learn to navigate the rapids with skill, not panic. You can accept the deep pools without getting lost in boredom. The dukkha doesn't disappear. The rapids are still rocky and wet. But the suffering, the added layer of terror, resistance, and identification, diminishes dramatically. You feel the stress of rowing, but not the despair of drowning. You understand the river's nature, so you are not surprised or betrayed by its changes. You are engaged, mindful, and responsive, rather than reactive. The Buddha is the one who woke up, sat up, saw the oars, and then spent 45 years calling out to everyone else asleep in their boats, wake up. You have oars. You don't have to be terrified. Learn the nature of the water. The Four Noble Truths are his map of the river and his instructions for the oars. I once met a brilliant concert violinist. She had dedicated her life to her art. Her peak experience, the one she lived for, was the moment after a flawless performance, the hush, then the roar of the standing ovation. That wave of adoration, the proof of her mastery, was her ultimate validation. For those few minutes, she felt whole, complete, triumphant. But, she told me, it was also the source of her deepest agony. The ovation would end. The crowd would leave. She'd be back in her dressing room, the silence ringing in her ears. And a crushing emptiness would descend. Was that it? She'd think. The craving for that peak experience would immediately set in, poisoning the present. She'd be planning how to get it again, analyzing the performance for flaws, fearing the next one wouldn't measure up. The joy of the ovation was always tinged with the sorrow of its ending, viparinama dukkha. She became anxious, brittle. Her happiness was a prisoner to the opinion of strangers. She was on a treadmill, running towards the next hit of applause to relieve the suffering caused by the last one fading. A burnout and a crisis led her to a mindfulness teacher. She was taught not to focus on the applause, but on the feel of the violin under her chin. The sensation of the bow hair on the string. The vibration of the wood against her collarbone. The single note she was playing in this moment. To anchor herself not in the future reward of applause, but in the present mime act of creation. Slowly, her relationship to performance changed. She still enjoyed ovations, but she no longer needed them to feel valid. Her joy became located in the intimate, silent dialogue between her, the instrument, and the music. The performance became an offering, not a plea for validation. She told me the most liberating concert of her life was one where, in a crucial passage, a string broke. Gasps from the audience. Instead of panic and shame, she felt curiosity. She stopped, calmly replaced the string, tuned it, looked at the conductor, nodded, and rejoined the piece exactly where she'd left off. The audience, seeing her utter lack of distress, gave her a different kind of ovation at the end, one filled with respect for her composure, not just her technique. That night, she said, I learned that my worth wasn't in the flawless performance. It was in my relationship to the flaw. When I stopped craving the perfect, unbroken string of sound, I could handle the broken string without breaking myself. Her dukkha had been the craving for permanent, external validation. Her freedom was found in the imperfect, present moment act of playing. The Buddha didn't just diagnose the illness, dukkha, and its cause, tanha. He prescribed the cure. This is the Noble Eightfold Path, the practical, step-by-step training to uproot the cause of suffering. It's not a belief system, it's a training manual for the mind and heart. Let's walk its 8 spokes, not as a linear ladder, but as interwoven aspects of a single path of awakening. 1. Right view, samadhi. This is the foundation. It's seeing life through the lens of the 4 noble truths. Understanding dukkha, its origin, its cessation, and the path thereto. It's replacing the ignorance that says, I must have permanent happiness from things that change, with the wisdom of, all that is conditioned is impermanent, and clinging to it brings suffering. It's adopting the cloud-shaped heart view, I am the sky, not the weather. 2. Right intention, samma sankappa. Aligning our heart's deepest desires. Renouncing the intention fueled by craving and aversion. Cultivating intentions of goodwill, metta, compassion, karuna, and harmlessness. It's deciding, I will steer my boat with care, not just drift towards whatever pleasure rapids promise. 3. Right speech, samavaka. Using words that are truthful, helpful, kind, and conducive to peace. Not gossiping, slandering, or speaking harshly. This is practical. Speech rooted in craving, I'll lie to get what I want, or aversion, I'll insult them to hurt them, creates immediate dukkha for ourselves and others. Conscious speech creates harmony. 4. Right action, sammakamanta. Behaving ethically. Abstaining from harming life, from taking what is not given, from sexual misconduct. It's living in a way that doesn't create waves of guilt, fear, or social discord. A peaceful life is the best foundation for a peaceful mind. 5. Right livelihood, samma ajiva. Earning a living in a way that doesn't harm others or conflict with ethical principles. Our work takes up so much of our life. If it forces us into constant states of greed, hatred, or delusion, it constantly feeds the roots of dukkha. 6. Right effort, samma vayama. The energetic aspect. Consciously cultivating skillful states, mindfulness, kindness, and abandoning unskillful ones, craving, ill will. It's not grim struggle, but the persistent, gentle effort of the gardener tending his plants, weeding out the harmful, watering the beneficial. 7. Right mindfulness, samma sati. The heart of the practice. Cultivating clear, non-judgmental, moment-to-moment awareness of the body, feelings, mind, and mental phenomena. It's the practice of waking up in the boat, of being the sky aware of the clouds. It's observing the itch without scratching it mentally. This is what allows us to see the chain of dependent origination in action and pause it. 8. Right concentration, Samma Samadhi, developing a calm, collected, unified mind through meditation. It's the training to stabilize attention, so the mind is not perpetually scattered by every passing sensation or thought. A concentrated mind is like a still lake, able to reflect reality clearly, not a choppy sea distorting everything. This path is a holistic training. Ethical conduct, speech, action, livelihood, calms the outer world and our relationship to it. Mental discipline, effort, mindfulness, concentration, calms and clarifies the inner world. And wisdom, view, intention, illuminates the entire journey. It's not about becoming a Buddhist, it's about becoming awake, using the timeless tools the Buddha discovered. A man named Robert climbed the corporate ladder with a singular focus, to become CEO. Every late night, every sacrificed weekend, every political maneuver was justified by that goal. His identity was future CEO. His present life was a string of stresses to be endured. He was deep in the tunnel of wanting, and the meadow of his family, his health, his simple pleasures, was a blur outside its walls. Finally, at 52, he got it. The corner office, the title, the power. The first few months were a high of achievement. Then, one Monday morning, he sat at his vast, empty desk, the weekend silence still echoing in him. The emails piled up, the decisions waited. And he was hit by a question so devastating it took his breath away: is this it? The craving had been fulfilled. The tunnel had ended. And instead of the meadow, he found another, emptier room. The craving instantly re-aimed. Maybe if I acquire that company, maybe if I get that award, but the old fuel was gone. He felt a profound, hollow dukkha. The suffering of conditioned existence, sankhara dukkha. He had built his entire sense of self on a conditioned, impermanent role. And now that he had it, he saw it for what it was. A set of responsibilities, a title on a door, not a source of lasting meaning. He had a mild heart scare. A warning. It forced him to stop. He began reading, stumbled upon Buddhist teachings. The concept of anatta, not self, struck him. He saw how he had crafted a solid Robert the CEO self out of thoughts, ambitions, and achievements. And how fragile that construct was. He didn't quit his job. He began to practice. He started with right action and speech, being more ethical and kind in his dealings, not just strategic. He practiced mindfulness, feeling the steering wheel in his hands during his commute instead of rehearsing meetings. He tried to be truly present with his wife for 30 minutes a day, no phone. Slowly, the identity, CEO, softened from a solid suit of armor to a set of clothes he wore for a purpose. His worth was no longer trapped in it. The dukkha of the empty desk transformed. The desk was just a desk. The work became a field for practicing integrity and focus, not a source of his soul. He told me, I spent my life trying to build a monument on sand. The path is teaching me how to stand steady on the sand itself, without needing the monument to not fall over. His story is a classic map of dukkha, the suffering of wanting, the suffering of getting, and the deepest suffering of building a self on sand. And the beginning of the path out of it. Here is a metaphor for how wisdom dissolves dukkha. Imagine your suffering, your reactive patterns, your clinging and aversion, as a landscape of ice. Hard, cold, confining. The ice is forms. I am a failure, I must have that, this pain is unbearable, I need to be loved by everyone. We often try to fix suffering by rearranging the ice. We chip at it. We try to sculpt better ice shapes. If I get that promotion, the ice of, I'm a failure, will melt. But it just becomes a different shape of ice, now I must maintain this success. This is worldly striving. It's exhausting and temporary. The Buddha's wisdom is not a chisel. It is like the sun. The practices of the Eightfold Path, ethics, mindfulness, concentration, are like clearing the clouds. They allow the sun of right view, of penetrating insight into impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self, to shine directly on the icy landscape. The sun doesn't fight the ice. It doesn't condemn it. It simply shines, with warmth and light. And under that unwavering, gentle gaze, the ice naturally begins to soften, to melt. The rigid form of my suffering loses its solidity. It becomes water, fluid, changeable, less obstructive. The water may still be there, life's challenges remain, but it no longer imprisons you in sharp, cold shapes. Eventually, with sustained sunlight, even the water evaporates, returning to the spacious sky. You don't have to battle your thoughts of craving. You don't have to violently suppress aversion. You simply shine the clear, kind light of mindful awareness on them. See them as conditioned, impermanent mental events. Ah, this is craving. It has arisen. It will pass. That very act of non-identification is the sunlight. It's the sky remembering it is sky, not the frozen cloud. This process is gradual. It's a slow thaw. But it's a fundamental change in strategy. From being a sculptor fighting ice with a chisel, to becoming the sky, patiently allowing the sun of wisdom to do its transformative work. My final story is the simplest, and perhaps the most profound. It's about a friend, a mother of two young, energetic boys. Her days were a whirlwind of noise, demands, mess, and constant giving. The perceived me time was zero. She loved her children fiercely, but she often felt touched out, overstimulated, and resentful. Her dukkha was the friction between her craving for peace, quiet, and autonomy, and the reality of her loving, loud, demanding life. One evening, after a particularly chaotic bedtime battle, she finally got the kids to sleep. The house was silent. She walked into the kitchen, which was a disaster, dirty dishes, food smears, toys on the floor. Normally, this sight would trigger a wave of exhaustion and resentment. I never get a break. The work is never done. But that night, she was too tired even for that story. She just stood there, leaning against the counter, and stopped. She didn't try to fix anything. She just breathed. She felt the cool countertop under her hands. She saw the mess not as a personal indictment, but as evidence of a life lived, pancake batter from a morning of laughter, a little muddy footprint from an adventure in the yard. In that moment of simple, weary acceptance, the craving for a different reality stopped. She was not in a tunnel wanting a clean kitchen. She was in the meadow of a quiet kitchen, mess and all. She made herself a cup of tea, sat at the messy table, and drank it in the silence. And she felt a peace deeper than any spa day could provide. It wasn't the peace of absence of noise, of mess. It was the peace of presence, of being fully there with what is, without argument. She realized her suffering hadn't been in the noise and the mess. It had been in her constant mental resistance to it, her story that it shouldn't be this way. When she dropped the story, the dukkha evaporated. The noise was just sound. The mess was just objects out of place. And in the space between those facts and her reaction, she found a vast, quiet freedom. She began to practice finding that kitchen moment in the chaos itself. Listening to the boy's screams not as a personal assault, but as the raw sound of childhood energy. Feeling the tiredness in her body not as a problem, but as a sensation. Her love for her children didn't change, but her experience of motherhood was transformed from a battlefield of resistance to a field of engaged, sometimes messy, presence. Her story reminds us that nibbana, the cessation of dukkha, is not a far-off paradise. It is the peace available in the gap between a dirty dish and our opinion about it. It is the freedom found not by changing the world to fit our cravings, but by letting go of the cravings within the world as it is. So, we have taken a long walk together. From a broken vase to a quiet kitchen. We have circled the word dukkha from many angles. We have seen it as not a verdict that life is suffering, but a diagnosis of a specific illness, the illness of clinging to the impermanent as if it were permanent. We have seen its three faces. The obvious pain, the sorrow and change, and the subtle stress of being a fragile self in a fragile world. We have traced its cause to Tanha, the thirst that turns the vast meadow of now into a narrow tunnel of wanting. We have felt how it plays out in the instant leap from a feeling to a craving. And we have seen the path out. Not an escape from life, but a profound leaning into it with clear eyes and a steady heart. The Eightfold Path is that way of leaning in. It is the training to become the boatman on your river, the sky holding your clouds, the sun melting your ice. This teaching of the Buddha is not pessimistic. It is, in fact, the ultimate optimism. It says the cause of your suffering is not out there, in the cancelled trains and imperfect lattes and noisy children. It is in a pattern of the heart and mind. And since it is in here, it can be understood in here. And what can be understood, can be unraveled. You don't have to believe this. You don't have to adopt a label. You can simply experiment. The next time you feel that friction, a frustration, a disappointment, a longing, pause. Just for a breath. Ask, what is the craving here? What permanent thing am I demanding from an impermanent moment? See if you can feel the Vedana, the raw feeling tone, before the story of, I want, or, I hate, grabs it. That pause is the beginning of mindfulness. That question is the spark of right view. That is you, waking up in the boat. This understanding is a lifelong journey, not a single revelation. Be gentle with yourself. The habits of craving are deep. But every moment of awareness is a stone on the path. From all of us here at Monk's Temple, we thank you for spending this time in contemplation. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. And may you, in your own way and time, come to see the truth of things as they are, and find the unshakable peace that lies within that seam. Good night.